Hi, I'm Paul Germain, and welcome to another session of Smart Boating. As you know, if you watched the show before, we cover a variety of topics, from man overboard to hurricane protection. And the general idea is to provide you with a little bit of information that will help you make smarter decisions and have more fun on the water. But every now and then we take a little side trip, and that's the case today. We're going to dive into the world of model boat building. And joining us is a very experienced guy in that area. His name is Len Burgess. Welcome, Len.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. Glad you could join us today.
That's my pleasure.
Hey, Len, we got a really cool show here, and we're going to show a lot of photographs that depict the process and some of the background behind the model boats you built.
Right.
But before we get into that, can you share a little bit about your boating background, and then we'll use some photos to guide us through the model boat building part.
Right. Well, I grew up in Hingham, and that's a seaside town, and I was always around boating. And as a kid, I did a lot of models. You know, in those days, you do not ships, but you would do cars and planes. Anyways, and when I also had 4 boys in my marriage, and so we did a lot of boating. Boating, because I had 3 boats over the course of my life.
Oh, you did?
So we did, so we did a lot of boating, and we did a lot of actually model making with my sons at the time.
Okay, now we've got some photos of your. This is one of your earlier models, right? The lobster boat. It's
a lobster boat. Well, I started this about I think 2012, and it was the first big wooden model that I had done. It was in the attic for 25 years. The kids had bought it for me, and it finally came out of the attic, and I really started to build it and really enjoyed doing it. It's quite a challenge, and if you hadn't really done that kind of thing. But,
now, from the time you started to the time you finished, how long did that take?
This one probably about 8 months or so, or 7 months, maybe less. The scratch models sometimes last a year and a half.
Oh, they do. A lot longer.
A lot longer.
So this was one of the first one, and then I think we got a picture of you went to a show, right?
Yeah, what happened was a friend of mine said that there's a show of model building in Peabody at the Peabody Council on Aging.
Okay.
So we went over there, and it was like 250 models, and it was like, wow, this is great. So so I joined the group there, and they meet on Mondays and Wednesdays for a couple hours, and it's a lot of great guys, and there's women there too, building boats, and all different types of boats.
All building boats.
Yeah, and they give you, the thing about it is that they can, they get you into like the scratch build, which I hadn't done before.
Right, as opposed to a pre-made model.
Right.
Now, do they have, I think we've got a photo here of a dory. What's the background behind that?
That was the first boat I did at the group, and they go through it with you, and there's plans, and you have to follow the plans. I had never done that before.
Right.
And so you have to make every piece and part of it.
Now, there's a lot of details
in
this, right? I've seen little oars in there, and a little fish basket.
There's even a compass in there, believe it or not. So and then a little box that they have.
Okay.
So it's and it was a great experience to be able to do this. It was, and I did it with a couple of my friends. We joined together, so we're all doing it.
Okay.
So that was good, and then after that, I built a couple of kits actually of schooners.
Okay.
So,
all right. So you got into it, picked up steam. Now, obviously, you've got the right background for the show. So,
you think?
So why don't we talk a little bit more about some of the boats that you've done? Now, we can't, because of the show, it's only a half hour. We can't cover everything, but I think we can cover some of the high points and a sampling of your boats. And one of the ones that we wanted to start with is this Lewis H. Story. This is the picture of the actual boat. We've got 3 photos of it. Yeah, can you share with us a little bit of the background, why you selected, well, maybe a little background on the boat first, and then why you selected it to model?
Well, actually, I'll get into why I got involved in it, in that I joined the Essex Shipbuilding Museum back in 2006, and that was a great awakening into boats and building and everything. It was incredible. 300 years of boat building.
Oh, yeah.
So, by being a member, I was able to go out, they'd take you out on the Story. So I went out on the Story quite a few times, just kind of fell in love with this boat. It's a great old boat. So I later on, I thought, well, this would be probably a good one to build because I hadn't seen a good model of it anywhere.
Right, and it's very historically significant, right? Because
Yes,
it was
it is.
Chabaco-style schooner.
Right.
And Chabaco used to be a parish or something of Ipswich, right?
Right.
And so they built a lot of these boats, right after the Revolutionary War, right?
After the Revolutionary War. What happened in the Revolutionary War is that they decimated the fishing industry by sinking all those schooners. So they needed a boat, a smaller boat that would be easier to build and would do the job. So they ended up with this, and it was the first one was built in Essex. Right. Which was, the name after. I mean, it was built in Chabaco, but it became Essex.
Right. And they built hundreds of these, not only in Essex, but in other places, right?
All over the East Coast. Yeah.
They were, 24 to 42 foot, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
That sort of range. And this is a 30 foot.
This is a 30 foot, yeah. And this one is, I think it's 3/8 inch to the foot.
It is.
When my scaled down.
And this was named after a very famous historian in Essex, right?
Yes.
Story. That's a big name.
Story owned a big shipyard, if not a bunch of them there at that time. Yep. And he was a historian. And he was a designer, and he was everything, building them and everything. Yeah. So he's very important. So they named it after him.
Named it after him. Yeah.
And in 1998, it was commissioned to Harold Burnham to build the boat, and it was going to be the flagship, and that's how it started. Anyways, the boat is there at the museum.
All right. So this is a very historically significant boat.
It is,
particularly for this neck of the woods.
It is. Yeah. It is.
So once you select a boat like this, you've got to figure out, well, like any builder, you got to get some plans together, and you use seems a combination of photographs and plans that are available, and we've got about 12 photos of that. Maybe you could explain them to us as we go along here.
Okay.
What's going on?
Well,
this
is the major plan. It's a big plan that I bought at the museum.
Yes.
And the problem there, I have to scale it down, and I do that. Usually, can do it at Staples or someplace. They'll bring it down to the size that you want. In this case, it was 13 inches on the length of the boat, about astern.
13 inches to what? What was the scale?
It was 3/8 to the foot.
Oh, 3/8 to the foot. Okay. And as you look at this drawing, are there different things to observe? Like if we look at the top left-hand corner here, it looks like it's a view of the stern on the left side of that drawing from the stern forward, right?
Right. That's true. Yeah. And the right-hand side will be from the bow to the middle.
Okay.
And within it also has numbers on. You can see the numbers on the
on the larger drawing, I can see the numbers. They go down the top rail there.
1 to 9.
And the bow's on the left, right?
Yes.
Of this picture?
Yeah.
And so they're starting 1, 2, 3, and there are 9 of them, I think.
There's 9, yes, and they're called bulkheads. They're not frames so much because frames would be every 12 inches. These are bulkheads that enable you to actually plank it correctly. In other words, the right angle. You don't need all the frames because I'm not getting inside the boat for the model.
Right.
I mean, So
right.
Yeah. So in the left side, you can see that that the numbers relate to the lines, and that would be those are going to be the frames or the bulkheads.
Yep. So this is a nice multi-perspective on some of the important components. And how about this? This is what's the importance of this?
I took this out of the plan. I drew it out of the plan because it's the basic. It's the backbone of the boat. Everything's going to be off of this, so it has to be correct. And
so the bow's on the left in this picture, right?
The bow's on the left, the stern on the right, and you can see the vertical lines. Those are all the bulkheads. That's where when you cut the bulkheads.
That's the 1, 2, 3, 4 we were just talking about.
You cut them out.
And how about those cutaways in the middle and towards the back? Are those for the fishermen?
Yes, those are for the fishermen. Yes, and there was 2 fishermen on these little schooners. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. They would be hand lining fish.
Hand lining. Yeah. That's some rugged work. Hand lining.
It is.
How about this? So this ties into
the plan that I just did.
The plan where we started the side and we had the 1 through 9.
Right.
These are the bulkheads. And this is, you're cutting out the templates to make them?
The templates, yeah. I cut templates out to the right size for the model, and then you would double them so they would be both left and right side of the model. And then I cut plywood for these particular pieces.
You did? Okay.
Yes, and they're going to be attached to the
That's
the
a pretty
backbone.
thin plywood. What was
It's
that, like
a thin-
1/8 inch or something?
Yes,
Or?
yes,
Yeah.
it's a thin plywood. The reason I do that, because of the sharp edges on some of these, they would just snap off. It was just regular basswood.
Oh, really?
Yes, so the plywood would hold on to the very thin, as you can see, there's some thin ends on these.
Yeah, thin ends, right?
Yeah.
And these are numbered again, and
Right.
one is probably, what, closest to the bow, and then they go back from
I
there?
think so, yes,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, okay. So those are some of the pieces. Now, what's going on here? This looks like a bird's eye view of the deck.
Well, the problem with the plans that I got, there was no plans for the deck.
There weren't.
There were no
That seems
plans.
kind of unusual. So you had
Well,
a good
the
plan for the
plans-
hull,
yeah.
but not for the deck.
No, the plans they said were up in Harold's head, Harold Burnham, because he
that's a
knew
good
what
place
he,
for
he
him. I
knew,
mean,
he knew what he wanted to do,
Yeah.
but there were no plans that I could ever find, and they didn't
Okay.
know about. So I had to create a plan. So I measured out the whole deck, everything on it, because I had the boat there. They were
Yes.
doing reconstruction on the boat, and
Okay.
I was able to get on it any time I wanted.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was good. And so I had to actually draw out and make my own master plan
Oh,
for
you
the
did?
deck.
For the
yes.
deck. For the deck. So you had good
Yes.
detail on the hull, but not on the
Not
deck.
on the deck, yeah.
And you had to do a lot of calculations. This is an
Well,
example of some calculations, right?
Yeah, well, you have to have your little measurer with you, and you can just measure everything. As you can see up in the upper left-hand corner,
Mm-hmm.
that was the one that I did all the measuring on to make that master plan.
Okay.
And some of these other measures are part of that, and also pieces and parts of the deck.
I see. So these support the overview drawings, but this is the detail that lays below them.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So the detail is needed.
This is another detail. This got an unusual stern on this particular boat, what they call a pinky stern, right?
It does. It's a pinky stern, and it sort of hangs out beyond the boat in the stern, and it holds up the boom when the boom comes down, and they fold up the sails. It holds that, and it's good for following waves to defend against that, and it's actually used for a bathroom in the old days there.
Oh, now, was this difficult to frame out?
It was. The problem with it is that because it's not part of the everything else that's holding the boat up, I had to do an outside frame on it beyond it to build a sort of a scaffolding so that when the pinky stern went out, it had something to keep it square and all. In fact,
this is a very tricky part here,
it is
I
a
guess,
tricky part.
right?
In fact, I was showing the model when I was building it to Harold Burnham, and I told him how I did it, and he looked at me, he says, that's how I did it.
Well, that's
So,
good.
Yeah, it was good.
Great builders think alike.
Yeah.
Here's another shot of, again, the type of detail work you have to do to put an accurate model
Right.
together, right?
And there I had to draw up I had the boat to do, but I did draw up a plan after I measured it all out.
Okay,
So
this
these
is
are all information that I need to start to build a boat.
Yeah, so you got the stern there, we
Yeah.
got the rudder, and those are some of
Right.
the key, looks like some of the
Right.
key pieces there. So as you're putting the plans together, saying, okay, how am I going to actually make this? You integrate drawings, measurements, and photographs, right?
Right.
And this is an example of
Yeah.
a photograph that's particularly helpful to someone like yourself,
It
right?
is. Well, this was a major photograph, and I took this during the Salem Maritime Festival, and it shows everything I have to do for the deck. There it is. It's all of that, and so I had to measure all this stuff out and make all of these pieces and parts.
Wow.
So it was a great photo.
This is
to have.
nice. This is a nice photograph too, because you get just detail in the bow, right?
Right. There's a blow up of the other one, and it shows all that detail that I have to create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're lucky to have the boat around
I
here
was
so
lucky to
close
have the
and
boat. That was
be
it,
able to
yeah.
do this. And you got a stern
Now,
shot
the
here.
stern shot. It shows the rigging,
the rigging,
and everything.
okay,
Yes,
that'd
the
be
rigging.
important here.
Yeah, I tried to, when you're building a boat like this, you try to make it as to look like the real boat as you can. So
Right,
there's
right,
the colors and everything else.
Well, they're right. And you dialed this into this actual boat, the Lewis H. Story, as opposed to necessarily a boat in that particular era, right? Because we got an engine on this one. The
Yes,
other ones
there's an
didn't have
engine.
engines.
Yeah.
So you're making a very precise replica or
Of the replica.
of the replica.
Right.
Right. Here's
So-
some detail. Again, great to have the boat around.
Yeah.
This is, I guess, something the boom ties to.
Yes. Well, this I've taken probably 50 photos of all the different parts on that deck, and this is one of them, and it shows the horse, as they call it, across the stern of the boat, and that's the traveler that that attaches to the boom.
Okay, and then you got some more detail here.
Yeah,
this is for the cooking,
I had
right?
to make a drawing of that after I measured it all up. That's they call it Charlie Noble.
Charlie Noble, okay. All right. Well, that's helpful because we know that they can eat, right?
Yes.
Below that is the galley and the stove, and
that's right. They could.
So when they go out for a couple days,
two fishermen get down in the forecastle there, and they can sleep, and they can go out for a few days. Yeah.
Right. So you're trying to replicate right down to this level of detail.
Yeah. I know some of them get down into the forecastle and see what's in there, but I didn't.
Okay. Now we're back to the drawing, or the plan, if you will. Again, we got the different dimensions. So again, this is a pivot point when you're moving into actually doing the construction, right?
And there's the plan out in front of me. As you can see, it's all worn out because it's up there all the time when I'm building.
Right. Let's see here. Now now you're starting to work with some wood. What's going on here?
Okay. Well, there you can see the bulkheads have been cut from the templates, and now they're attached to the backbone, and which I call the backbone as a keel. And you'll see that in the bow and the stern of it, I've had to use some balsa wood because there's a lot of turning there for the planks, and they need something to adhere to.
All right.
Here it is.
Here?
Yeah, okay, there's the planks. Start to plank the boat.
With the planks, yeah. So you're starting from the top and moving your way down.
This way. Sometimes you can do it from the bottom up.
Yeah.
But you can see the little clips. Those little clips are made out of two paper clips, basically. They attach to the frame or the bulkhead and hold that in place when you're cementing.
And when you're cementing it up.
You can see I think you can see those wells, the fishing, and the two wells there too. Yeah.
What are you using for little planks on this?
That's all basswood.
Basswood.
Okay. Yeah, that's
all right.
what we use. And here it is. The planking's done, and it has a primer coat. And as you can see by this. Probably looking at the elastics here, it's kind of a straight. I don't think everybody builds a boat the same, but I built this frame on the bottom there, or the stand, and it's been in 3 or 4 of my boats. I use the same stand. I just change it a little.
It works out well.
Yeah, it works out well.
How about here? It looks like we've got some paint on it now, and putting the pinky stern. Now you're mocking that up with like manila file folders.
That's right. I use a manila file folder, and I thought that was great because you can bend it, you can cut it, and you can make that part that's going to be wood, you can make it as exact as you want, which you have to.
Right.
And so, I do a lot of that. Even the deck, I think, was done with that.
What, with the
manila?
folders?
Yeah.
Wow. Right. Okay.
And here it is. Now you see the area above, in the area above the deck, and the pinky stern going out beyond the boat in a way.
Right.
And and you can see the scuppers have been cut in.
Yeah.
And and you can see the bulk, the bulwarks.
Yes.
Bulwarks
towards the stern there.
Yeah, that's the vertical pieces.
Yeah.
And here we see a lot of the bulwarks there now. Because there's a lot of them. And I'm starting to get into the paint on the boat, so with the different colors. Here it is, pretty much
Get the rigging up on this one, right?
The rigging isn't all done here, but there's some of it. There's the sails, which is made out of cotton, and I see the sign is on there. I had to do all of this stuff.
A lot of detail to this. And here it is in the case.
There it is in the case.
And now it's on display, what?
It's at the Essex Shipbuilding Museum. It's on a permanent loan to the museum. So you can all get over to the museum and see it. It's there.
That came out nice. Now we have time, I think, for one other boat here. This is a very famous boat. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about it? This is the Phyllis A, right?
Right. It's for Gloucester. It's very famous because, well, back in 1910, Albert Arnold brought the plans and idea of gill netting to Gloucester, and it was a Norwegian type of, and it became the standard for, at that time, it was a big thing. And, and later on, he built a boat himself, had a boat built in Kennebunkport. 58 foot,
shipyards up
58 foot,
1925.
fishing boat, and it's a gill netter. and it was named after his daughter, Phyllis.
Right. So we've got some photos here of it being in use, and we've got to be conscious of the time, unfortunately. But this one here shows the fact that it was in use for 75 years, and then now it's under reconstruction at the local Gloucester Railway's yard.
Yes,
right?
it is. It's under reconstruction. Yes.
Yep. So you decided to make a model of this. Now, again, when looking at the integration in this particular shot, you were picking up detail like the dory being suspended above the deck, right?
Right. And as I had to use a lot of old pictures in this to reconstruct what I had to do, because the boat's changed so much over the years. It's it was built in 1925.
Right.
So,
and you took some shots of your own. It looks like here. Here's the shot of the rudder.
Right.
So it's
basically,
a mixture of what you
same,
had and what you could get, right?
Basically the same way that I did the story, the same process, the same process.
Taking the photos, information
measuring everything.
So you'd measure this, the forecastle?
Measure all that up, and there again I had to do a plan of the deck just like I did for the story.
You did?
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
There's the good shot of the deck right there. It's nice to have the boat around.
It is, yes, in both cases,
Yeah. So you make the measurements off this, you're out there with a ruler and you're taking pictures.
Yeah. This when I started to build the boat, it was the winter and it was covered. The boat was covered, so this was out on the parking lot. So I was able to measure it and do a plan and started building that first.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. And you got to even catch your detail as small as the name,
all kinds of detail, right?
So you get that information together. Then you start to build the boat. Now this one's you're doing turtle fashion. In other words, you're working on you got it flipped over. You're working
flipped over, right? It's different from the other one, right? Yeah. You see the planking just going on. There's the planking, and finished pretty much, except for the area above the deck, and you can see the bulwark sticking up there to hold on to that area.
Yeah. And, so we got the hull in there, laying down the deck. Got the pilot house in there.
Right. And there's more finished of the whole thing.
I see more planks up top near the bow, right?
Right, up the bow, that bulwarks, you'll see a lot of those. There's a lot of them.
Yes.
You have to measure and get all those in there.
Really?
And then all the scuppers have been cut in.
All right. And again, you're planking with, what are you planking
with? It's all basswood.
All
basswood, yeah. And you can see that stand, again, has come into play. And from the story with the elastic and all.
Okay, all right. So that works well for a variety of models.
It did,
there, right?
And here it is, pretty much getting to be finished there with the paint. I try to match the paint that they're.
So that's important, right? To bring that detail right down to the paint.
Yeah, they wanted a certain green and and a gray on the upper part of the boat.
Yeah, this is an open, very open fishing boat, isn't it?
It's very open, yes. Yeah. And here it is actually it's in the case. Here you see it. It's out of the case, but I haven't quite finished it yet. I still have some things to do, but pretty much the rigging's done, and the rat lines and things like that are all done on it. So it's just a matter of, I don't know where it's going to go, actually. It might end up in the, who knows, town hall or something. I don't know.
The model itself.
The model itself. I don't know who, but where it end up.
Right. And there's quite an effort right now on restoring it, right?
Right, there is.
There's an association.
Yes, association, and the president is Doug Parsons, and it's the Phyllis A. Marine Association. So, and people should really donate to it, because they're struggling to redo this boat, because they think it's a very important boat for the city of Gloucester and the fishing, that Gloucester's done over the centuries,
Right. It's really tied into the history of the whole place.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And they actually have got, I've got it here, though, if they wanted to send some money or tie in with them, it's gofundme.com/Phyllis A. Marine.
Okay.
So, and actually they can just go to the computer and put in Phyllis A. Fishing.
Right,
it'll come up.
Right, there's Phyllis A. Marine Association, I think it is.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that really came out. That really came out nice, and that's again a nice shot that we started off with. It really, it kind of shows some of the tools you use and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
they're pretty, well, with the big boat, you'd use like a 10-pound sledge, right? to drive in caulking or whatever you're doing, right? And with a boat like this, you use tools
very small tools. And this was a major tool. It's something I work with in my graphic design. It's a scale. It's a scale ruler. So,
yes. Yes, because you've got so many measurements, right?
Right.
Yep.
And whatever scale you need, it's right on there. So yeah, I use that all the time. Other things, here's where here you have the manila folders.
Yeah, just as simple as something you do file folding in.
Right.
But that's a nice, inexpensive way to mock things up, isn't
it? It is. And some of the glue that you have to have, and screwdrivers and pliers, and I mean, there's all kinds of things that you really need to build this boat.
You need a lot of stuff.
You need a lot of stuff.
Do you find you've been doing this for a while, do you find there are certain characteristics that are shared among people that enjoy building model boats from scratch?
Well, yeah, it's for me, it was in my retirement. And when I retired, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And it took a few years, but finally I get into this. But it's a great rewarding thing. You really feel good doing it. And being in the group here, it's been great, too. You can meet all these guys, and everybody has an idea of somehow to do this or that, you know, because, you know, and it's wonderful to move along with that.
So do you need characteristics? I would think one of them would be patience.
You have the patience.
Another one might be an eye for detail, because as you say, you're scaling, you're using the ruler, you're trying to get everything down proportional.
Right.
That would seem to be another characteristic. How about on love of the water? Because you could build different models, right?
Well,
you could build, airplanes, you could build cars, you could build trains, but people that go for boats, they probably have some sort of connection to the water,
I have.
Right?
Since I was, you know, a kid, I've always connected with the water somehow, in boats and all. So for me, it would just fell into place. The museum and everything else that, you know, I've been doing with the boats. It's been really good.
And for you, it sounds like a common thread has been history, a tie into the history, particularly of the local area, right?
Right. Yeah, which is great to have, especially with the museum, because it goes back so many years building schooners there in Essex.
Yes.
You know, so,
yes, it's so much of a tradition here.
Yeah, it is a tradition.
Right.
So.
And the nice thing about this is, in contrast to building or rebuilding one of these boats, the cost to get involved in this hobby are pretty modest, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, you probably can, you know, $10, $20, $30 for maybe the, you know, things that you need.
Yeah.
I guess maybe, and if you do a good job, it could be worth like $2,800. So,
right.
So you want to work on it pretty delicately and with good detail. So,
Well, I think these models, I really like the fact that they are tied into the local environment and the history, and they help preserve it.
Right. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to make a boat that has some meaning to it, and that's why I did the story in this one.
Yes, that makes good sense.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's hard to believe, but we're out of time already for this show today. And I think a really interesting show, helping people understand not only the significance of some of the boats around here, but also the way you have translated them into the models, which actually reflect them accurately.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the show?
No, just that it's a great hobby. Other people may be interested in this, and they could drop by the Peabody Senior Center on Mondays and Wednesdays for a couple hours each time and see what we're doing there, and they could go on with it from there. You know, it's a good,
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Smart Boating viewers, for watching the show. If you have comments or questions, just contact us through our website, www.smartboatingus.com. Thank you.